on me.
Imagine two urns. Urn A has, say, 4 red balls and 6 white, 40% red. Urn B has maybe 12 red and 88 white, 12% red. Now you blindly draw 5 balls from one of the urns and you get 4 red and 1 white. Which urn did the sample most likely come from?
Well, 4 out of 5 is 80% red. That feels much closer to the 40% in urn A than the 12% in urn B. So urn A.
That's the intuitive answer. Based on representativeness comparing the sample proportion, 80% to the urn proportions, 40% is 12%. But it ignores sample size. Drawing 4 red out of just 5 is actually statistically more likely to happen by chance from the larger urn, urn B with 100 balls, even though its overall proportion of red is lower than from the smaller urn, urn A with only 10 balls, where 4 red is a huge chunk of the total. System 1 sees the striking 80% and ignores the statistical weight or lack thereof from the small sample size.
Wow, okay. So similarity trumps statistics again.
Pretty much. And Nisbet and Borgita's experiment showed this resistance to statistics even when it challenges our beliefs about people. Students were told about studies showing people are surprisingly unhelpful in bystander situations due to diffusion of responsibility. They learned the stats. But when asked to predict how individuals they saw and interviewed, who seemed like normal people, would behave in that situation, they predicted much more helpful behavior than the base rates warranted. They just couldn't believe that nice, normal people, like the ones they saw, or like themselves, would act that way, even knowing the statistical tendency. The individual case, the belief about human nature, resisted the statistical evidence.
It's hard to change your mind with just numbers. Okay, let's just do another pervasive bias. Anchoring.
Anchoring. Yes, this one is everywhere. It's the tendency for an initial piece of information, the anchor, to heavily influence your subsequent judgments or estimates, even if that anchor is completely irrelevant. Your final answer tends to stay close to the initial anchor.
The Wheel of Fortune experiment is a crazy example of this, right?
It's a fantastic demonstration. Participants watch a Wheel of Fortune rigged to start only on the number 10 or the number 65. After seeing the number, they're asked a totally unrelated question. What percentage of African nations are members of the UN?
And the random number affects their answer. How?
It does. People who saw the number 10 gave significantly lower average estimates, around 25%, compared to those who saw the number 65. Their average was around 45%. That completely arbitrary number from the wheel acted as a powerful anchor, pulling their estimates towards it. It seems bizarre, but it's a robust effect.
Where else does this show up? Because that seems like a lab trick.
Oh, it's everywhere in the real world. If I ask you, did Gandhi die before or after age 114? Your estimate of his actual age at death will be much higher than if I'd asked, did he die before or after age 35?
Right, the number frames the question.
Exactly. In real estate, the seller's asking price is a huge anchor. It powerfully shapes what potential buyers think the house is actually worth, even if they try to evaluate it objectively. Initial offers in any kind of negotiation salary, business deals, they serve as potent anchors that define the subsequent bargaining range. The first number on the table matters a lot.
So how does System 1 actually do this? How does an irrelevant number influence us?
There are a couple of proposed mechanisms. One is called anchoring as adjustment. You start with the anchor number and then adjust away from it, but the adjustment is usually insufficient. You stop adjusting too soon.
Yeah.
But perhaps a more powerful explanation involves System 1's associative machinery. When you consider the anchor number, say, the high asking price for the house your System 1 automatically starts searching for reasons or information compatible with that number. It primes thoughts that support the high value.
So it makes it easier to think of the house as good points.
Exactly. It biases the search in your memory. If the anchor is low, it primes thoughts compatible with a low value. System 1 tries to construct a world where the anchor makes sense, so influencing information comes to mind and biasing your final estimate. Don't consciously decide to stick near the anchor, it happens automatically.
Okay, so System 1 just to conclusions, rely on what's easy to recall, availability, list stereotypes over stats, representativeness, gets stuck on initial numbers, anchoring, and System 2, a logical checker, is often just too tired, too lazy to step in.
It's a pretty good summary of dynamic. System 1 offers a fast, coherent, intuitive answer based on whatever is available, and System 2 often just endorses it unless there's strong reason and mental energy to challenge it.
No wonder we make predictable mistakes.
It's the nature of the beast, and this dynamic leads directly to how we form illusions about how well we understand the past and well we can predict the future.
Right, illusion of understanding, illusion of prediction. Let's pack those.
It starts with System 1's drive for associative coherence, building a consistent, plausible story from the information it has. And this is where WISI is key.
WISI. What you see is all there is. Using only the info at hand and acting like it's the whole picture.
Exactly. The WISI explains why we jump to conclusions so easily. If I ask you, will Linda be a good leader? She's intelligent and strong. System 1 quickly grabs those positive traits, build a coherent positive story, and you literally think, yeah, probably.
Without stopping to think what else I know about her.
Precisely. WISI means use the available information, you move on. You don't automatically consider what might be missing, like maybe the next word, but also corrupt and cruel. System 1 constructs a coherent story from what it sees, not from what it doesn't.
And it's System 2 effort to think about the missing pieces.
Does. The source mentions an example of evaluate a lead case based on hearing only one side's arguments. Even if you know intellectually that you're only getting half the story, WISI means your evaluation will be heavily driven by the compelling information you do have. The available narrative dominates your thinking, and you don't give enough weight to the unknown counter-arguments.
And this also messes with predictions, right? Like predicting college GPA for early reading.
Yes, that's a great illustration. System 1 sees connection. Early reading skills seems related to academic talent, so use attribute substitution. Swap the hard question, what will her college GPA actually be, for an easier one, how good was her early reading?
Okay.
Then it uses intensity mapping. If her reading score was extremely high, say 99th percentile, System 1 intuitively predicts an equally extreme college GPA, maybe also 99th percentile. Prediction matches the intensity of the evidence.
But the actual link between early reading and college GPA isn't nearly that strong, is it?
Not even close. The correlation is actually quite low. But System 1, operating under WISI, uses the compelling early reading data it has and makes extreme prediction, largely ignoring the low validity of the data for predicted distant outcome. It creates a coherent story where extreme input leads to extreme output, without properly accounting for all the factors and randomness involved in college success.
This need to create coherent stories also distorts how we see the past, doesn't it? Creating the illusion of understanding.
Absolutely. We have this deep need to make sense of the world, to make it feel predictable. So after an event happens, especially a surprising one, we immediately start constructing a narrative that explains why it happened, highlighting the causal factors that seem obvious in retrospect. This makes the past seem orderly, logical, even inevitable.
Which makes us feel like we could predict it.
Exactly. And that fosters overconfidence in our ability to predict the future. A huge factor here is hindsight bias.
I knew all along of that feeling after the election results of stock market crash, you go, yeah, I saw that coming.
Precisely. Baruch Fisher did classic studies on this. He'd ask people before an event like Nixon's trips to China and Russia to assign probabilities to various possible outcomes. Then, after the trips happened and the outcomes were known, he asked the same people to recall what probabilities they had assigned earlier.
And they misremembered.
Consistently, they significantly overestimated the probability they had originally assigned to the outcome that actually occurred. Once you know the result, your memory of your prior uncertainty gets distorted. The past feels much more determined and